Some of the most brutal deaths in history didn't happen on battlefields. They didn't happen in the wild. They happened in cells, behind locked doors, in places that were supposed to be controlled. These are the worst jail and prison deaths ever recorded. Some of them changed history. Some of them changed laws. All of them tell you something about what happens when a system stops caring about human life. Before the cases, let's talk about what confinement itself does to a human being. Solitary confinement means 22 to 24 hours alone in a cell, roughly the size of a bathroom. No human contact, no stimulation, sometimes for days, sometimes for years. Within 72 hours, most people begin experiencing severe anxiety. Within a week, hallucinations begin. Within a month, many develop symptoms indistinguishable from severe mental illness: paranoia, dissociation, complete loss of sense of time. The United Nations considers prolonged solitary, anything over 15 days, to be torture. Not harsh treatment, torture. That's the environment. Now let's talk about what happened inside it. In June 1756, during British colonial rule in India, somewhere between 40 and 146 people were held overnight in a single cell in Fort William, Calcutta. The cell measured roughly 4.3 by 5.5 meters. It had two small windows. By morning, most of them were dead. Exact numbers are disputed by historians. But the mechanism isn't. In that heat, in that overcrowding, with almost no air circulation, people died from heat stroke, dehydration, and suffocation. Not from violence, from the cell itself. The cell didn't need guards to kill. The cell was the weapon. This became one of the most documented examples in history of how imprisonment itself, the physical conditions of confinement, can become a death sentence. Andersonville was a Confederate prisoner of war camp in Georgia during the American Civil War. At its peak, it held nearly 33,000 Union prisoners in a space designed for 10,000. There was almost no shelter, almost no clean water, almost no food. The single water source, a small creek, was also used as a latrine by both prisoners and guards upstream. In the 14 months the camp operated, nearly 13,000 men died. That's almost 1 in 3 prisoners, from dysentery, from scurvy, from starvation, from contaminated water, from exposure. The commandant of Andersonville, Henry Wirtz, was the only Confederate officer executed after the Civil War, specifically for war crimes related to the treatment of prisoners. Andersonville became the symbol of what happens when a prison stops being a place of confinement and becomes a place of slow death. Sergei Magnitsky was a Russian tax advisor. In 2008, he uncovered a massive fraud scheme he believed involved Russian government officials stealing $230 million from the Russian treasury. He reported it. Then he was arrested by some of the same officials he had accused. He spent nearly a year in pretrial detention. He developed serious medical conditions, gallstones, pancreatitis. He repeatedly requested treatment. Those requests were denied. In November 2009, he was beaten by guards. Hours later, he died in his cell. He was 37 years old. The Russian government claimed heart failure. Independent investigations found he had been beaten and denied medical care. No one was ever convicted in Russia. Instead, Magnitsky himself was posthumously put on trial. A trial of a dead man. His case led directly to the Magnitsky Act, legislation passed in the US and dozens of other countries that sanctions individuals responsible for human rights abuses. His name is now attached to one of the most significant human rights laws in modern history. He reported corruption. He was arrested for it, he was denied care, he was beaten, he died, then he was convicted after his death. In 1955, 14-year-old Emmett Till was murdered in Mississippi. His killers, 2 men, were arrested and put on trial. An all-white jury acquitted them in 67 minutes. After their acquittal, protected by double jeopardy laws, they gave a magazine interview and confessed to the killing in detail. They could never be tried again. This isn't a jail death. It's something arguably worse. It's a case where the justice system itself became the final layer of protection for the people who committed the crime. The jail cell was never used. The people who needed to be in it never entered, and everyone involved knew exactly what had happened. Emmett Till's case directly accelerated the American civil rights movement. His mother insisted on an open casket funeral, so the world could see what had been done to her son. Tens of thousands of people came. The system failed completely. Then it protected the people who made it fail. William Wallace, the Scottish independence leader, was captured by the English in 1305 and brought to London for trial. The trial lasted 1 day. He was not allowed to speak in his own defence. His execution was one of the most brutal state-sanctioned deaths in medieval history. He was hanged, drawn, and quartered. A process designed not just to kill, but to send a message. He was hanged, but cut down while still alive. He was disemboweled. His organs were burned in front of him while he was still conscious. Then he was beheaded. Then his body was cut into 4 pieces and distributed to 4 different cities as a warning. This was done publicly, by the state, as official policy. What's striking about Wallace's case isn't just the brutality, it's the legal framework around it. He was given a trial. He was convicted under law. The execution was carried out according to official procedure. The law was the instrument of the torture. The system wasn't broken. It was working exactly as intended. These cases span centuries and continents. A cell in Calcutta in 1756. A prison camp in Georgia in 1864. A courtroom in Mississippi in 1955. A cell in Moscow in 2009. What connects them isn't the era, it's the pattern. In every case, a system had control over a person. And in every case, that system either failed them, ignored them, or actively destroyed them. Jails and prisons are supposed to be places of punishment, not places where the punishment becomes something no law ever intended. In some of these cases, the law never intended it. In others, the law was the weapon. That's what makes these cases the worst. Not just the deaths, but who was responsible for them.